Welcome to step one of the logic model series. We're going to be building our ultimate impact and our problem statement in this particular video. So if you're interested in doing this in pen and paper, get out your PDF worksheet that hopefully you downloaded already. If you haven't, there's a link in the workshop description where you can download that particular PDF. If you're more interested in doing this in a digital format, go to this bit.ly link, bit.ly/brandup-logic-model, and you can start to work on that worksheet in a digital format in Google Docs or download it for Excel. So we're going to get started with building our ultimate impact. How are we going to do this? So number one, when you're writing your ultimate impact, it's really important to write it as if no barriers exist. So when you're thinking about things like lack of funding or staff bandwidth or political environment, when you're writing out your ultimate impact or the ultimate goal of what you're trying to do, don't write it as if barriers create. Write it as if this is going to take place for sure. Secondly, you want to lay out kind of the vision for the future. Your ultimate impact should not necessarily restate your mission, but it should encapsulate the vision for the future. When you write it in present tense as if the future is now, okay? So that future goal has been achieved. Lastly, if you have an opportunity to craft it with your team, that can lend a lot of value. But if you can't do it side by side, after you've taken a first look at writing the ultimate impact, make sure that you vet it with your team as well. So you'll see in the Full Circle Fund model here that the ultimate impact is at the top, and it says Full Circle Fund unlocks the resources and generosity of the community to transform people, places, and philanthropy by driving more resources to local organizations, amplifying their impact, and building a more connected and equitable Bay Area. So number one, you can see how they've written that in present tense, and you can see how that is setting a vision for the future. So take some time at the end here. We're going to give you some time to write out the ultimate impact. Before we do, I want to walk you through what our problem statement looks like. So here are a few tips on how to write out the problem statement. Number one, state the scale and scope of the problem that you address. What is the problem that your organization is uniquely qualified to address? Is the problem local? Is it national? Is it international? And then talk about who is affected and for how long, right? So stating the scale and the scope of the problem is important. Secondly, what's the result of this problem? And by this, I mean, if the problem is our drinking water is contaminated, think about how this affects your constituents or the communities that you serve and make sure that that is defined. So for instance, if our drinking water is contaminated, is it that kids aren't healthy? Is it that local farms are contaminated and therefore food sources are contaminated? Is it that sports fishermen can't go fishing? So be clear about why the problem affects your organization's constituents. And then finally here, think about why should the reader care? This we're going to flesh out a lot more in future workshops, but try to think about what motivates your constituents and why they should care about the problem that you are facing or addressing. Build that motivation, if you can, into your problem statement. So again, from the Full Circle Fund logic model, local organizations lack the resources to successfully meet the needs of their communities, and those who want to help lack the knowledge and coordination to sustainably and equitably partner with organizations in the Bay Area. At first blush, this might seem easy to do, but let's also realize that the way in which we define our problem will affect how we talk about the work that we do and the impact that we have. So take some time to think through this. And again, if you have an opportunity to create these two statements with a coworker or a colleague, this is a great opportunity to do this. Otherwise, take the time to vet these with your colleague or coworker after you've taken your first run at it. So The activity, before we go any further, take some time to write out your ultimate impact. And then number two, write out your problem statement. And after this, in the next video, we're going to start to talk about putting together what are our activities and the outcomes that those activities have.